All right, I'll be honest. I struggled, kind of struggled today, um, with regards to like feeling depressed, being down and out. And today's like my last day off before I go back to work. And luckily, it's Monday through Thursday at the moment. Don't have to worry about being on call or anything. I can just. But I like these days in which I'm able to just be by myself and kind of reflect. And I'm still kind of, I mean, I have my moments, have my days. Today was kind of rougher than yesterday or the day before, but you have to let yourself feel these emotions that do spring up. Especially after rejection. And I'm saying this as I'm learning this, like you know rejection. You want to say rejection is God's protection, right? But in a lot of ways, being rejected by someone kind of helps you to navigate who it is that who is your right person. A lot of ways, who is the one, so to speak. You don't want to mope. I mean, yeah, mope about it, but sometimes it's not as bad being rejected because in a lot of ways you kind of realize, well, if if I would have gone out with this person would have said yes, then how might that have changed who I was? I mean, I feel bad about this, but I do have limiting beliefs. I'm a Christian. I read my Bible. I read my Bible. You know, so far I've read the cover to cover, Genesis to Revelation, three times. I'm on my fourth go around, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that my Christianity makes it hard to find someone who's not a Christian, but some bit of way, if someone's like, not as, I guess, I don't know, serious. I don't know. I don't want to say serious, but if someone is not like, a lot of ways it's hard for people who I've studied theology, I've studied these things, and yeah, I've studied other things, and so my outlook on life is that have the Bible is my worldview, and part of that worldview is like nutrition therapy and you know uh exercising, stuff like that, but those things are not my sole my sole philosophy. My sole philosophy is the Bible alone is God's word. And so, but what I'm saying is that yes, I can mope around with this about this lady who rejected me, and I can be like, God dang it, why did she reject me? Like, am I good enough? And sometimes it's not necessarily that you're not good enough. It's the fact that I mean, if you, like I said, if you would have gone out with them, you would have to change something that is your actual character, who you are as a person. And you know you don't want to do that. You don't want to change for someone who really is not your person. How many times do I see this, like in relationships? People go in and out of relationships. It's like they do the rebound, and it's like, well, I mean, I guess, whatever. I mean, I know personally, I know a lot of folks who have done that, and it's like, man, they're not really stable. I wonder what happened with them. I thought they met their person, and they end up not meeting their person. Well, because they're not thinking about these things. They're not considering, okay, well, who am I? This is why, we always want to go back to our child, becoming like children. Today we wear a lot of masks. These masks, they present they present us as the best possible person at all. But then once you start dating someone, oh, okay, well, let me take off my mask. Well, guess what happened? Um, that person's gonna be like, I didn't date you for that. I don't know why you're like that and stuff like that. So you kind of realize that a lot of folks, they do walk around with the mask. And you as an individual who's trying to date someone, you need to make sure that you know who you are, that without the mask on, so that way you can present that. I mean, albeit, you don't want to, present something really bad, but I mean, I'm just saying you have to be secure in yourself to present the true self that you are. I mean, so for me, I like theology. One of the things I would like to do with someone is to talk, theology, but I'm also heavily in regard, into nutrition, exercise. So, I like doing a bunch of different things, too. Not just theology, but that is a big thing for me. You know, seeing, criticizing the world and stuff like that. So, the question is, would I have been able to do that with this person? Probably not. At the end of the day, probably not. The other thing too is that she already had a child. I mean, I know nowadays, people say, well, you shouldn't worry about that, but because she's going to take care of the child or something like that. Or, I mean, not to say I wouldn't be able to take care of the child, wouldn't want to take care of the child, but it's just one of those things. Like, you have to question that. You have to say, well, I mean, would that have prevented us from doing what I feel like, what is my calling, or what would be our calling, so to speak. I say that in brackets because at the end of the day, I mean, she might want to do something that is totally against what God has prepared you for and called you to do. And so, I don't know, just thinking about, this rejection that I received. Yes, it's bad, but it's like, but then in the end, it's also an eye opener. Like, I need to really be focused on trying to learn and grasp myself, and being, and just I don't know, just be confident in who I really am as a person. And I mean, it may be the case that no one is there, that there is no one, and it sucks. I gotta accept that. But but then again, it might be the case that there is someone out there that kind of agrees. One of the things I don't like about these limiting beliefs is that a lot of folks are like, well, go to church and find someone. But here's the thing: I'm not one of I don't know. I just don't hold to the church's theory on a lot of different things. Like, I'm not a legalist. A lot of church people think that you have to do the 9 spiritual laws, 9 spiritual disciplines, 12, I don't know, whatever. I don't do those things. I don't pray, like I do pray, but I don't like, I don't know. I just don't like, I don't isolate myself. I don't fast. I don't do all these little things, and I definitely don't do them to make myself acceptable before God. But I mean, that's the thing. I'm like a wild card, so to speak. So, but I don't know. I'm just, like I said, I'm just thinking out loud, and if this reaches anyone, I mean, I hope it helps. I mean, helps anyone that who may be going through the same issues. Like, man, I like this girl, or I like this boy, depending upon what race, sex you are. But I do agree that we're not like minded, or we don't have the same values. I think, like I said, you have to be grounded in yourself. If you're not grounded in yourself, then you will fall for breadcrumbs. You will fall for what is not true to yourself. So, and that only takes time and to grasp and understand. So, like I said, this is the video. I hope it helps, and I will post this up.